What's our,
We'll call this meeting in the West Branch Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Good to see all of you here. And we'll start with roll call. Members. Ed Bauer.
Aye. Here.
Holly Peck.
Here.
Yep, that's again.
Here.
Ryan Bowers.
Here.
James Hoffman.
Here.
And I'm John Fuller. Let's see, we have Emily Walsh. Not present. Okay, we have a agenda before us. If anyone didn't get a copy, there's some table right by the entrance. I would seek a motion to approve the agenda as it has been presented to us by staff.
Motion.
Moved by Brad, seconded by Ryan. And from here on in, I think I'm going to have to ask somebody to keep track of our minutes.
I've assumed that role.
Thank you. Great. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the August 23rd meeting. I don't think those minutes have been put together yet. I'll ask Adam when he shows up, but I think we'll just hold them in abeyance until our next meeting. Next item is a public hearing on the rezoning of 154 Ort Street from the zoning category of R1 to R2. And so I would be appreciative of the person who wants to have that rezoning sharing with us the rationale.
Thank you. My name is Brad Bauer. I'd like to rezone my lot from R1 to R2. Just for, I would like, because I own the lot right next to it, I like to join them, so they have to be the same zoning.
Okay, any questions of Brad? Commission members? Members of the audience? Okay, Brad, thank you very much.
Yep.
And of course, you'll recuse yourself from the rest of the. Okay, we will seek a motion on item B to rezone 154 Ort Street. We did discuss this in our last meeting. I think we, as commission members, have clarifications to the rationale and know more about the circumstances now. So if there's a motion to rezone, I'll accept that.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
And moved and seconded. Let's have a roll call vote. Sally?
aye,
Matt?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Fuller, yes. Okay, we'll move on to item C, which is a rather interesting item. It's to amend the historic preservation ordinance that the city has. And essentially what happened is this ordinance got left out of a recodification of the all the ordinances of the city. Reason for that? Nobody knows. But nonetheless, this is the putting back to the historic preservation ordinance as it was written, plus with a few minor changes. The changes include establishing a new historic preservation district, which consists of essentially, I'll probably worthwhile reading that. It's called the West Branch Underground Historic Preservation District, and it consists of any building or site in the city known to be affiliated with the Underground Railroad or a nearby property or site affiliated with the West Branch Underground Railroad. And here we've got a little map in our plan packet that describes that property. So I don't know if there are any questions by anyone as to why this this historic preservation ordinance needs to be put back in place. Essentially, it reestablishes our historic district and doesn't really make very many changes. Questions of the commission? And we did take this up at our last meeting, reviewed the wording of the ordinance, made a few minor wording changes in it. And thought it was suitable. How about the members of the audience? Does anyone wish to speak to this reinstatement of the historic preservation ordinance? Okay, well, then I'll entertain the motion to amend that ordinance.
Motion.
Brad moves,
Second.
and it's seconded by Sally. Okay. I'll call the roll on this one also. Brad,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
myself, yes. Ryan,
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, it passes, and we'll have our ordinance back in place. I assume the city council approved. Next is item D that was not in our packet as far as I can see. It's to approve signage for the new subway that is to go into place in Parkside Hills. So, was that in the packet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
oh, good. I
I
just
got you.
I just didn't see it. So it is essentially on the side of the building that faces Parkside Drive as you come in from the interstate. And it appears to be a small S. Yep. I don't know if we can get that up on the screen, so we'll take a look at it. Maybe that's not necessary.
We're working on it, John. We're trying.
Okay. Well, why don't I just hold that until you can get it up and place it later on the agenda. Item E is a request for rezoning of 224 North 4th Street from R3 to planned unit development. And also to rezone the parcel along the east side of Wapsie Creek that the city owns, that same category of planned unit development. In the absence of, well, Adam, do you want to say anything to that rezoning? Because it is a city request.
Yes, so one of them is a city-owned parcel, but basically when we started this project, we weren't sure, the city council wasn't sure which parcels would get rezoned. So it's one on that 224 North 4th Street. Everything else surrounding it is a planned unit development. And R3 generally will allow most of what would be proposed by Heritage Hill. So there's really nothing any different than what's been done the last year and a half when we've done public notices on this project. We just need to add that additional parcel into that zone.
Okay. Questions from the commission? How about the audience? Anyone wish to speak? Yes. Sir, if
What
you-
is the
if you could come to the podium.
PUD?
Minor
What
formality.
is the PUD
Oh,
zone? What does that mean?
the planned unit development zoning is an attempt to take a larger parcel of land, make it compatible instead of having each particular parcel within that larger area independently developed. And it is an attempt to have the city weigh in on the way in which that development takes place. So it, when things are requested in that development, the city has essentially a negotiating veto on
Okay.
those kinds of changes.
I live right across the street from
Oh,
that
okay.
on 4th Street facing. What is my house zoned as? Is that
probably R1.
Is that just residential?
Yes, residential, single family.
Okay.
That's not doing anything to your lot.
No. No, I know.
Well, thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just go on record as saying I support the Dave Clark's property to go to PUD. And this little parcel that the city owns, just I support it. So I'll go on record as saying.
Okay, sounds fine. Thank you, Roger. Well, if there are no more questions, I'll call the public hearing to a close and seek a proposal from the commission members.
Motion.
Brad moves to approve the rezoning.
Second.
And the second by Jim. We'll go through the roll call once more. Brad?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Sally?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes, for me. And Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, yep. That has been approved then. Next, we have a review and requested approval of Heritage Hill preliminary plat. And this is in the PUD. So I don't know if there's anyone who would like to explain this to the audience in particular. So,
You mean in the College Street, the PUD that we just talked
yes,
about?
mhm,
Because we have another PUD.
we do indeed. That's what Parkside Hills PUD.
Just for clarification.
Right. No questions, no comments. Roger, would you like to say anything about this?
Heritage Hill,
Yeah,
fully support the concept.
okay. And in terms of the preliminary plat,
Yeah, preliminarily, it's got it zoned out, phased out, I mean, in sort of construction phases.
yeah,
Trying to find it on the.
1, 2, 3, and
I've
4.
seen it before. I support the layout.
I would say one thing to note is it is one parcel and most of those utilities are going to be private. So in terms of how a plat is usually formed, there is generally less, I guess, public, types of descriptions, requirements, since a lot of this area is going to be basically a homeowners association. So it's pretty straightforward preliminary and final plat.
And we do need to take them in order. So I'll seek approval of a preliminary plat. Brad,
I'll second it.
Jim, or Matt, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll call the roll once more. And all those in favor of approving the preliminary plat, Brad,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved. We next move on to item G, which is the final plat. As the mayor has told us, that's something he's seeking as well. And the final plat has some conditions to it. Sort of perhaps unusual conditions. We don't usually have such a condition as an advisory review committee made up of several members of staff and the mayor and so forth. And then the second condition that would be attached to the approval is that we would get a final plat in case anything in way of an error occurs after the final plat has been recorded. And that might be unusual circumstances in the discovery of the construction process. It might be something having to do with the utilities. I'm not sure what it might be. Adam, do you know? What sorts of things might occur?
Correct. So you could run into issues that when something was surveyed, you may not have known was there. But typically, I guess the reason why we're asking it is to treat all developers as equitable as possible. typically we do preliminary first and then we do a final plat. But with the state tax credits that the developer is seeking, and due to the uniqueness of the number of parcels he's purchasing, he needs a final plat before he gets his financing from Midwest Bank. I've talked to their bank. I've talked to other developers in town to kind of confirm that that is true. But I added those conditions because I felt normally we do not operate in this way. And so I thought it was more kosher to have some conditions on top of it, because this is not a normal proceedings for the city.
Okay, thank you, Adam. The first of these particular conditions, Phil, requires our commission to do something. It's to have an advisory review committee with the mayor, Dave Sickles, the engineer, Harry, the building inspector, our city attorney, and Adam, plus one member of our commission. Something I would be willing to do because I've been involved in this PUD more than I think most of the rest of you have. If that would be suitable.
We nominate you, John.
Nominate
no
you,
problem,
okay.
Aaron,
Okay.
no.
Well, I will move to action. Yes.
Has anything changed on this subdivision since we saw it at our last meeting?
I think maybe the lighting has changed a bit because I've seen some more reasonable lighting.
I'm Blaine Thomas. We've met. Nice to see all of you again, in the audience. I'm Blaine Thomas. I've been working, we, City of West Branch City Council, city administration, city staff, Adam, wherever you're hiding at. I don't know where you are anymore, but he's gone. This project has touched more hands in this community than in many of the communities I've worked with. And the reasons are multifaceted. The predominant reason I would say is because this piece of property is so challenging. But we're up for the task. The deal that we negotiated with the city, because we like to give back to communities, is that the tax credits that we receive, we give half of it back after taxes, and we were awarded the tax credit. So it's significant, but we have a timeline with which we need to work. And I'm certain that everybody's been watching the news, and we understand that interest rates are going up faster than one could imagine. And we negotiated a deal some time ago when this began, because like I say, we've been working on this for a long time for a rate that's been favorable. And my lending partners at my other bank right now are just finding out for the first time that they might not be getting the project. I apologize to them for that. But that's just, how that's going to shake out probably. But we're in the home stretch now, and I did not understand the last time that we were here. Otherwise, would have, at the last planning and zoning meeting, I would have requested a collapse of the vote at that time so that we could all have been on the same page, rather than learning about this not as quickly as I could have, because the way I've done this in the past is that the preliminary and the final plat are all at the same time the vote gets collapsed. I've just never been through that before. So regardless of whether we're collapsing the vote or not, which I need you to, thank you very much, and I appreciate all of your support to this point. Let's go back to condition I, letter G. So John, you and I spoke anyhow. Terry, you and I spoke anyhow. Adam and I spoke. Kevin Olson and I spoke. This development cannot be done with a brushstroke. You just can't do it, right? Elevations are going to change. Stuff's not going to line up. Driveways aren't going to work out. MMS Consultants is going to have to come in and reshoot elevations. Plans are going to change. Foundation footprints. It's all this stuff's just, as you're coming down the hills, because the hill runs two ways, which this audience is new tonight, so I'll say it again. The hill runs two ways, right? It falls north to south and then east to west. So we're working on a ski slope, which we understand. And MMS has done a great job laying it out, and they've been working under a timeline. Thank you very much for performing. Bruce Barnhart knows the site quite well also. And there's some other things we might run into, right? We just don't know exactly what was left behind by the previous users. And when we put the shovel to the ground, we're gonna learn about that a little bit more as well. So I will be asking along the way, so, you know, we just need to leave the door open, then I'm be coming back and saying, hey, let's talk about what we ran into here today. So condition I mean, I would have requested that be in there anyhow. Thank you, Adam, because we're gonna need that. Now, I've crossed out the word developer on number 2, and I put down MMS. Kevin Kuhn right here from MS Consultants is gonna go ahead and sign off that if there's any cost associated with resubmittal of the final plat in the event that an error occurs on MMS's behalf, that he will gladly take care of those costs for us for free. True. I think so. So, naturally, we're gonna have to iron that out. But once again, these are things that we will find out as we move along.
Okay, I've got a question from Sally.
I've got one.
I'm
got
just
an
trying to
answer.
find the paper.
This is, I'm sorry, you're on page right
Oh,
here.
it's the
See, I
last
Oh,
actually
go
did
back
cross
up to
that.
the agenda. Oh, well,
Okay.
easy peasy.
I'm
thank you
sorry.
very
You
much.
bet. Okay, so there you have it in the nutshell. I have an answer.
Yes, I hope.
I hope so.
You have your rate locked in.
Yes.
Good.
And we reached a conclusion that I had been asked before by Emily. And I already discussed with Adam. Our determination because of the cost of money and this is the way things are going to shake out is that we're actually going to attempt to sell every unit.
Oh,
We'd like to take advantage of the lower rate and pass it on to consumers so we can get people in here because what I'm gonna be working against anyhow was that I would go from short-term money to long-term money. And when you take the development costs, sometimes this is more than I can explain in one meeting, but I would gladly share it with the public because it just doesn't matter to me. It's only numbers, right? So if you take short-term debt at a favorable rate now, and a year later, with the market that we're currently in, and try to roll that over to long-term debt, that's not going to be as favorable. However, Adam and I'll wave to you. We knew months ago when we started this venture, didn't we, that the market was going to change, didn't we? We talked about it and we made plans. And I told you what we would do. I told you how the tax incentive would work and I carried through with all of that. Now we just need to continue to make it the most favorable we can, which is why we need to do this expeditiously so we can get the financing tied down all the way. We're there now. It just needs to get finished out. And then we're going to take the rate that which we have attained and we're going to push it through to the end consumer to turn those units over. And we're going to do it as fast as we can because now I will be working against the clock. Because if rates hit 7, 8, 9, 10%, that's going to tap into my own personal money that I've earned over the years. And you all know how I acquired that. And I really don't want to slide backwards. But I believe that if we get the price at a point that the consumer can actually afford, which you've seen me do this before, Terry, we can turn these babies over fast. I wasn't planning on going as quickly as I am. I'm sorry, Ed, I'm going to tell this now. But I got asked this year because stuff is slowing down, and maybe Bruce would like to talk about that after I stand down. I was very surprised because I had planned on doing 3 5 units. I mean, we had already discussed this. And tonight you're going to see a 12. And the reason for that is because I received a call from the people that have carried me over the years. And asked me why I wasn't going forward with the 12 unit this year. I told them I wasn't ready. And they told me they needed the work. My plumber called me the other day and told me that no matter what the price I put on the things, he would do it. And that put me in a panic. You're watching on the news, it's a reality. I'm very afraid going into this, but because of what we did, Adam, I'm taking the hand that you and I led when we started this. I believe in it. We're just gonna have to approach the sale a little differently, and that's all right. We'll get it through, we'll get it done. It's just gonna have to go a hell of a lot faster than I planned. But thank you all for working with me. Yeah, I'm ready. I'll be hitting you for a discount too, just so you know. Sorry, Bruce has already gotten the check, hasn't he, right? Because he knows. So, you know, shit. Oh, turn that on camera, sorry. It's just been a lot to take in. I feel like I'm living in an alternate reality right now. I would have never imagined one of my sites and I'm working on another project. I went from having absolutely no framers to 3 framers coming up and asking me for work on a week. I had 11 homes in the ground. And then when Pierce came and told me that they were running out of work and they didn't know what they were gonna do through the winter into the spring, I put a total of 20 in the ground. I never had intentions of doing this, but my wings are broad. So I'm gonna push. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission members? Members of the audience? Well, if not. Or other questions? No, okay. If not, we'll proceed to have a motion on item G, approval of the Heritage Hill final plat. We'll entertain a motion under the conditions that are in our agenda. So moved by Ryan, seconded by Brad. I'll do the roll call. Ryan,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
yes, for me, and Jim.
Yes.
Okay, it passes. Next is to review and approve the site plans, buildings 1 through 4 in Heritage Hill. Through my notes here for just a moment.
I didn't see those in the packet.
No.
I think they might have been in the previous month's packet.
They probably were. Yeah, my previous ones, yeah.
They were in the previous packet. Adam, you have some papers on your desk. Can I snoop through them?
Yes, Terry, can you pass those out? That's building 1 through 4.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, that's not it. Adam,
Can you put them on the screen?
these are the old ones. Adam,
Yep.
these are the ones that didn't fit. So let me send you the one now real quick to your email. You can put it up on the screen, okay?
Yes, we're on to item D or H. I'm sorry. I'm sure we have those in the.
Yeah, we did that. So this one here, which we're gonna put up on the screen now. If you'll remember the comment in there about the PUD and the, I don't remember what the letter was about conversation we we're gonna have back and forth. I brought the colors into Adam. We went over it. Some folks requested some changes. I'm open to all that stuff. Adam, there you go. You should have it now. So I brought in a new color palette, which I'm gonna turn in today. The request was to delete the black and choose something that was a little more neutral, a little more toned down. So we stayed within the gray families. And I'm gonna move some colors around on the structure to accommodate that. The 12 unit is similarly pitched roof, which you'll see in a minute. I don't need to move that far forward. I'm sorry. Are you find it yet?
It has not hit my email yet.
Okay. Well, this is T-Mobile, okay? And I'm not on, it says sent now.
I think this schematic is what you're referring to.
So that, he's looking for the building plan. So that's your site plan, right? And Adam, it is possible that I sent, am I talking directly to you? It is possible that I sent you the wrong one again today. I might have done the wrong one. I've done so many on this thing, right? So let's pretend that one of our kids' friends come over, that we're at a bar somewhere. What's the Wi-Fi password? And then I'll try sending it that way to see if it's a little bit speedier.
Poplar 353.
Say it again now.
POPLAR 353.
Yeah. that's it. Poplar 353. The network you're trying to join has security issues. Continue via browser. Go ahead. Web page not available. Okay. So Adam, it says I'm connected there. I'll send it one more time.
You want to try Blaine? If not,
My computer?
sorry, we prioritize our fire and police before I can.
Hey, listen, so you want it? Oh, man.
I don't think we've seen the 12 flex. No. I'm pretty sure.
The 12 like you haven't seen.
Yeah,
The reason you haven't seen that is because it wasn't part of my plan.
okay,
I wasn't there yet.
that's a good reason.
Oh, I got there real fast.
We've seen. Yeah, we've seen the units. Right, units.
Yeah, okay. I would-
That's the hope. Do agree.
And necessary. It's kind of our responsibility.
Sorry about this, and our printer's not running either. Otherwise, I would have printed all that out. and got it down.
Well, let me suggest that we hold item H while we see if anything gets fixed up around here. And yeah, H and I vote. And return to the subway sign. I finally found my copy of the sign. And looks kind of like a traditional subway sign to me. Ryan, you were showing me the sign. Right, this is the front of the building.
I pulled it up on the computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
wow.
Okay, well. We'll go right back to item. Item H.
Up.
Aye.
Up to date. I'm switching back and forth.
Good.
Last time in this, team, so I just want to make sure.
So the materials and the color samples have been turned in to the city. I have the amended ones with me now. All of the color changes, once they're determined for sure, will be submitted on the plan set here as part of the PUD. As you can see, we can't read what it is now. And truthfully, I don't remember all the names. Dover gray, pearl gray, slate, white, stuff like that.
Got the tiles over
Oh, nice. It's the stone for the front. Oh, right on. Okay, thank you. So we're deleting this. Let me get the one after. Oh, thank you. So we had black soffit, black fascia, and a black fan board. And we spoke with folks that said that maybe not the black. And I that originally, so okay. So we went back and just made one modest change, so we're gonna go to white for the soffit. And then we will have white for the gutters as well. And then the windows will also be white. And then what we have is a combination of a color called Dover gray, which is the gray here. And then this is called pearl. And then we'll have a darker gray as the band. So where the black was will be this darker gray. So we had black. This will become the darker gray, and this is all the stone that's down there. Right? And then this will all be white now. And then we'll have, I can't read this, I'm sorry. It will have the Dover gray here will be up here, and then the pearl gray will be down here. And then when you flip it, you'll have a siding that runs vertically here. And then this is called Dutch lap D5. So instead of a traditional siding, the shape of it is, you remember Dutch lap siding, right? It's nice and tight, it's flat and looks good. Not that, traditional vinyl siding has a different profile, and just wanted this to look a little more tight, if you will, a little more composed. So you'll have those in there for color wise, and then you have in between each one of the units, you have a privacy balcony. The balconies run the full width of the back of the building. There's more windows than you would find traditional bedroom living. These are the bathrooms, and then a light into there, because I think light's very important. Reflects on human life, right? Everybody likes on space with one light, so we did that.
Just curious, what's the build type of the balcony, like the railing,
I turned in black iron.
black iron?
Hey, you didn't want to hear green treated. I know you did.
No, you're right.
Either. Okay. Just doesn't wear well. And then these posts come out, and go down, and they'll be wrapped as well, so that they look nice, because this does have to be a green treated material, because he's gonna make it structural, so. Rather than 2x4 sandwiched together, Jerry's gonna say no, but because we don't want it to look like that, we'll wrap that thing in some LP Smart product.
So Adam and Roger, have you seen this new design?
Yeah.
Seems suitable?
Yeah.
Harry, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I think it's gonna look nice.
Do you have? So. The 12plex is on there too, and I don't want to do this out of order. Do you want me to pull the 12plex up now?
Yeah, it comes next.
Okay, you tell me when to go pull it up.
Well, not until we approve this.
Okay.
Stuff. That's what we do. So any more questions by any members of the commission? Yes.
Are there any civil drawings for this set as well? Typically, a site plan for a non-PUD unit would have like our stormwater, grading plans and this kind of thing.
It's all on to PUD. Yes.
Are there any, like, city engineer have any comments on it? Has anything been reviewed and fully designed enough to be reviewed at this point?
Dave, take the floor.
So the site plans have been submitted. They do have a stormwater management plan in there, and erosion control plan. Did look over that, and the general approach on this is that everything is directed from the south to the north through pipes. And that'll handle the 100-year and direct over to that dry basin. On the north side, it's sized for the 5-year, and they have an overland flow route, so they can get that to work. Did look at the other aspects of this as far as all the parking requirements, everything else that's in here. They meet that. They do have 4 spots per unit, 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway. And looked at a number of other aspects of this as well, according to that site plan. A couple of minor things that have changed since you saw this last. We went from a dry basin to a wet basin back to a dry basin. So, the stormwater has changed a little bit here and there, but overall the concept and the calculations are there to demonstrate that they can get this to flow and meet the stormwater quality from a stream protection. They also meet it from a quality standpoint, and then they have the 100-year design accommodated as well. So all of that is taken into consideration. Anything else, the landscaping was included on a sheet that was in there. They meet the tree requirements based on what was proposed, and also the shrubs. and then they meet the open space by quite a bit. So those are the things we generally look at on the site plan, but this is looked at overall, and then they'll come to us with each building in that group that we formed. We'll review those as they come in and take a look at them to make sure they're appropriate.
Most of that was commented on our previous meeting, I think.
Yes.
Checklist.
Correct.
I thought we'd seen all this before. I just felt like I wanted to confirm before.
Right. Yeah, so this is a little bit unusual in that, this is a PUD that we're going to look at the building and reference back to that overall site plan. And we'll see that, there's another, PUD that we've done in the same type of situation. We look at each building individually, make sure that if there's in that case, there's lots that they formed inside the PUD. This is just one large area in phases. So slightly different from that.
And did the fire chief sign off on the passage?
They did provide a fire truck template that shows they could drive through here. The vehicle they used was a ladder truck, a very large truck from the Porterville Fire Department, which is probably the largest one in the area that we would see. And they did demonstrate that they can get that to go through. So I don't know if the fire chief had reviewed that, but I did take a look at it and confirm that didn't meet what we asked them to do.
The one area that I had concern with was just all the runoff, because there's gonna be an abundance from everywhere around, including the site. It's gonna have to find some home. And so the retention pond, and hearing that that's dry, that's encouraging. But what about the southwest part, like on the other effect or adjoining properties? I mean, is there any concern, or has that been evaluated as far as we're not gonna create an issue with displacement of water into their properties, are we?
Right, so there is a small retaining wall shown on the plan for the trail area. See that, that's along the first couple of buildings on the southwest. And then as they get up a little further, that disappears. But everything from there is supposed to go into that intake. And then again, the storm sewer there is sized, and the intake is sized to take the 100-year flow, run it through a pipe north, and then take it over to the detention basin. So they're not capturing it with overland flow, they're going to pipe it up in that direction.
How will that affect the flood issues of that second in college, that general vicinity there sometimes?
So this site drains into the creek that runs past there. They're going to detain some of the water, so the runoff situation here should be improved from what it is when it was the Kroll site. Didn't have any detention. The only issue that we run into with detention on a stream like this is that if you have the timing slightly different, but the release rate is very low on this. And it was modeled with a higher flow in the overall stream mitigation project.
Yeah, because I remember years when just that one in the block from Second up to the creek, actually to the bridge, was pretty well victim of flooding. So I just wonder what that's going to be. Obviously, taking that into consideration.
Yes, the peak release rate from this is significantly lower than the current state.
Is that retaining wall detail in these plans somewhere? I mean, I see where the line is, but I didn't really an elevation perspective of it.
No, I didn't. All you see is it's about 3 foot, I think, at the highest. Is that?
Spot elevations.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions for you. I think my only other question is, I see a lot of the people in this room might be neighbors to this property. I don't know if maybe you've had any kind of input, or is this the meeting where they're finding out what is going in next to them? Or has there been any outreach of any kind on the project to the neighborhood area?
As required by state law, we send letters in 10 days, no sooner than 10 days, no later than 20 days. Generally, we never hear anything from anybody. They generally will show up now. They generally don't always call. I've sent probably, even with the historic preservation, I've sent at least 100 public notice letters, and I've received 0 phone calls and 0 emails. So just a reminder, we are always open for a phone call and to answer your questions if you ever receive a letter from myself or another staff member.
Okay, well, I think we're finished with questions. Thank you, Wayne. So I will consider a motion to move on item H.
I motion to move on page.
Thank you, Jim. So a second. We have seconds? We'll do a roll call on this. Jim?
Yes.
Ed? Sally?
Yes.
Matt? Myself, yes. Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. Now we can put up information about the 12-plex. See what its design is going to look like.
So if I may request to take one step back. I appreciate the questions you asked, and I more than that appreciate city engineer Kevin for having the answers to that, because those things were definitely above my pay grade. But this is why we work with quality people, right? So thank you for having the answers to that. Adam, can you put the 12-plex tab, please? Very kindly. Okay, so if you'll notice, this is very consistent with the rest of the design of the other buildings. That is a 12-plex. Yes, sir. It's two-sided. So because Heritage Hill is a extraordinary hill, we have two different side elevations that our master engineers have worked out, so that the road can be accommodated on both the east and the west side as you fall down to the south from the north. So the high end will be up the hill, and the low end will be down the hill. And you can't, so this is side A and side B, right? It's reversed. And as you come down, Kevin has worked with Majesty and foundation elevation change, which Terry's going to see shortly, to accommodate for the drop. And we have worked it out so that the roofs will be a similar pitch to the one that's on top of the hill. And the way that this works out is that it captures the entire building. And the roof will be different as you're going up and down, which will add a really neat character to the building. On the side here, Terry, is the sprinkler room. Okay, you'll see that there. I don't remember what our 13 is. Yeah, of what that's going to be, and you will have your stuff on that, of course. So colors, we're going to stay in the same palette. I'll be working with Adam and the people on letter A, I think it was, of the review board, talk about it, so that everything can be cohesive and not shocking, right? No, the risk you take with changing up a bunch of colors inside of a development, obviously, and one of my friends pointed out this, is that you can make it look sort of clownish, and we would like it to be smooth, comfortable for people rather than boom. I think that's the interior.
So these are kind of narrower and longer, and it's kind of just shown on the site plan that it's more of a square.
Well, you see, so I'm working within the footprint that we have.
Oh. Either the 6 front and back.
To the south of the ones you're looking
Oh, these are to the south.
Those are in the
Oh,
center.
I'm sorry, okay.
So these buildings are not only structures, but they're also helping to take care of the elevation change. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Brilliant. This is what I had in mind when we looked at the site in the very beginning. But to be able to have people take what's in here and put it on there, especially with me, it's very difficult. Quite a challenge, right, Bruce, this site? Yes, it is.
Terry, question for you. On these long roofs where you can get a snow shadow effect where you're gonna get a heavier load on the longer, a lot of man. Is that, do you consider that in your evaluation?
I mean, for the roof structure,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all designed into the process.
that is, okay.
I mean, it usually it's 30 pound snow load,
Uh-huh.
10 pound dead load.
That's all calculated as far as it being, I mean, this is obviously longer than traditional roof, and it's,
Yeah.
roll across and down and
When,
build up, especially with the tiers.
when we go out to do inspections, they'll go ahead and have a stamped set of truss drawings.
Uh-huh.
The bracing you see on these trusses are all for snow load, there's nothing for wind load. So, I mean, they're all designed for that. That's right on the plans what they're designed.
So Matt, just as information for you, Glenn Basky and his engineering team from Lumber Specialties designed the trusses before we designed the buildings. So we're working with Glenn's floor system. We're working with Glenn's roof system, right? So he's designed all of these things. It's already been engineered.
Even with the kind of stepping and tiering.
Oh, yeah.
That's all considered. even
They're
if
the
it's a-
ones that made it possible to put these buildings on the site. Once again, I got to give credit to other people. He's worked with Lumber Specialties many times in the past. They are literally magicians at structural engineering. They're brilliant. Incredible.
Yeah, I just know in my line of work, when we get roof lines below another, you start creating areas where snow can build. And I just wanted to-
Drifting. All the drifting.
Yeah. Yep, so I just want to make sure that's gonna be caught.
Won't be a problem.
Yeah, not be a problem.
It's just a review. We aren't putting on this. Any questions by anyone in the audience?
And so that I understand, and Adam, I have to ask this question because I need to carry forward with this plan set. The final review is going to take place with the people on the vote that we just did a little bit ago, so we don't have to have another planning and zoning meeting to work within this plan set. This is just review.
Monday.
Okay. Okay, I just want to be sure that the foundation permits what I'm in. So that we can get that started. Finishes and things like this. can be changed.
Okay, Blaine, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. No, let's move back to item D, which is the signage request. Adam, we have not received signage request here before. That's because it's a PUD.
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing I guess I want to talk to you about, same thing with historic preservation, the current sign. The light's facing away from residential, it's not extremely large. I don't know if I foresee it being a good idea, it coming before this council and a commission, or this commission and council. It, for a sign that can easily be removed or replaced, I think we're kind of wasting a little bit of time. It's one thing if it's something that wouldn't be approved or is controversial, but I caution how much stuff gets reviewed, especially when it's no different than any standard subway sign. It's facing the road, it's not facing the neighborhood. It's not overly big. I just don't know how you guys want me to handle that stuff. When I've got to say, you've got to wait a month to order a sign that 99% of America approves. I need guidance, I guess, from this board.
Melanie?
You mentioned that, it doesn't really face any residential area, but the interesting thing is that on, say, College Street and the Downey Street area, when you look down toward the I-80, I guess, Parkside Drive intersection, there's quite a bit that is visible. From the McDonald's signs to the gas station, both the Casey's and so forth, those signs. I haven't really noticed too much out of the BP area, so maybe this won't be a factor. But some of those signs, instead of that sign, even though it isn't directly like across the street from a residential area, it does
And I would just, I would just say I'm not on the board or an elected official. That's for you guys to decide. But we are also on one of the busiest sections of the interstate. And we can either take advantage of that or not. So that's for you guys to decide, not me.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think when we reviewed this UD sign ordinance, I remember at least having part of the discussion being, I think, the practical sense of what we need to be worried about is anything that doesn't fit this is a commercial building in a PUD district, and this appears to fit commercial sign regulations. So I don't know that there's any controversy or anything about it that we're concerned about, or that would be a reason for us to review necessarily.
The only difference is that it's in PUD instead of the commercial area.
If we have like I wouldn't expect to see a subway sign appear on a residential building in the PUD. So that would be an example of something we would want to know about. Or vice versa.
Just to make sure, I think that I'll entertain a motion to approve it. And Ryan, you're making that? Caroline?
Yes.
Okay, roll call. Ryan,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
E, yes, Jim.
Yes.
Okay, so that should take care of it, I think. Evan. Now, we move to old business. And this is where we're going to need some input from Adam, because we talked about the idea of design standards, which encompasses a whole batch of things. And what Adam has told us is he'd like to take up those individual parts and then see if we can put together something that would stand for a set of design standards. And the one that I think is very interesting and is on our agenda tonight to talk about is having standards for accessory rental units. In other words, granny flats and other such buildings that can be on a R1 lot or R2 for that matter. And so Adam, why don't you tell us what your thinking is with regard to these accessory buildings, and then we'll just have a discussion about them.
So this is just the draft ordinance. And for those of you that don't know what accessory rental units are, good examples are like what are called granny flats. As we are seeing issues with housing and housing affordability, we need to find ways to be more flexible in the types of housing. I guess a good example is, my family, I have a family member that has, I guess, a mental condition where possibly he may not be able to live on his own. But in this situation, you could have him have a smaller individual home on that lot, which is rented, or you could have, say, your mother-in-law live at the same lot as yours versus paying the big bills of senior care centers or disability centers. Those are the options we were talking about. You get a little bit dicey in terms of how do you also preserve the neighborhood. I think that's why using some of the ordinances that Terry has worked with and making them rental only, and that there has to be a primary building and you have to live in that primary building. So I can't have an accessory rental unit and then live in Florida and not be around, because that's when you're gonna have those issues. And we can verify that through water, sewer usage. So that is the main thing that we're trying to do, is give people options. I'm not saying there's gonna be 100 of these. There'll probably be 3 in town, because generally you have to have the money to create this type of rental housing that's going to be on the same, for one person, that's going to be a family member. One of the things that we're looking at is potentially annual reviews. We don't have a rental building inspection code, nor do we have the ability to do that without increasing building fees, and that's not what we want to do.
I guess from a general perspective, want it to be rental only. We want there to be a primary residence and that person has to live there. Can't be like their secondary home. And in terms of some of the restrictions, in terms of sizes and heights, that's something Terry can probably elaborate on a little bit more, but we do not want the accessory rental unit to be larger than the primary house, nor do we want it sticking out further. It needs to be a secondary section.
So to be clear, nobody's asked for any of these accessory units yet. This is getting ahead of the game, we hope. And one of the key tenets of the housing section of our comprehensive plan was the need for more affordable units in West Branch, need for more densification in West Branch. And this would meet those kinds of goals. It would not make a big difference if there are only 3 of them, as you suggest, in town, but it would make a little bit of difference. And it gets us out ahead of the demand, which I think is pretty good. Because from my standpoint, if I may ask one question that has not been quite taken up in the ordinance that's proposed. And that is there some idea of compatibility between the primary unit and a freestanding secondary unit? It would seem to me that that would be a desirable component. On the other hand, it's a matter of values as to whether something is compatible or not. Maybe a different kind of siting is not, maybe it is. But seems to me that you want to have a cohesive neighborhood, even with accessory units in it. Is that something that is of interest? Yes.
No, just to clarify for myself, so we're talking like a freestanding building,
Well, it could be
or could it
freestanding.
be in
It could be-
addition to the,
It could be
primary
in addition to the primary building. It could be, depending on the primary building, I suppose you could wall off some portion of that primary building, and not have to have new construction.
So-
But,
The thing you gotta look at here is if it's in an accessory structure, this accessory dwelling unit cannot occupy more than 50% of that accessory structure. Okay, if it's located within a principal structure, it cannot occupy more than 30% of the principal structure. So there is limitations on that.
I'm processing.
No, that's fine.
So if you got a 2,000 square foot house, it can't be 1,000 square foot. Or it's got to be
Correct.
1,000.
Correct. Correct. It is, even though it's in the principal structure, it is an accessory use to that principal structure. And you see a lot of that in homes where aging in place. That's another thing that people keep their family, like Adam said, not going to nursing homes and items like places like that.
So it could be, they say you could have a garage with a mother-in-law apartment above, or a
Correct.
grandmother
Yes,
apartment above. That's
Mhm.
what a
Correct.
concept that falls into that.
And there is, it says, the way it's written right now, it says 50% of the square footage of the accessory structure or maximum of 650 square feet.
Hmm.
And also it does limit number of people that can live in there.
Two.
2 people.
So what would happen? Okay, so this is permitted, but then the person who's living there no longer lives there. Maybe they die or they move on. What sort of limitation or restriction on use to that structure would be built into the code then? And what do you do then?
Well, if they actually want to rent it out, they'd have to verify with the city, first of all, that they actually could rent it out.
They could
Probably
rent it out.
Do an inspection, I would think, of some sort.
So they wouldn't then.
Well, if it has been an accessory building, I would think that if there is a death, then there might possibly be a new owner. That new owner could operate the accessory building also. If they wished, they wouldn't have to.
It goes with the property, it doesn't go with the owner.
Could you see that accessory building then be put into the primary building? And I mean, if it goes to new ownership, the accessory building is then just adapted into the building. One building itself,
If it was part of the primary.
if it was part of the
Building,
primary,
yes.
so they extend the kitchen. I mean,
you could end having an accessory building.
Yeah, they could then come back and say, we want to, and the accessory part of this.
Correct. And then we take it off our list, yes.
So it'd just be a bigger house.
Correct. But it also says in here is if the homeowner puts an addition on their house to provide an accessory apartment, it can't increase the square footage of the principal structure by more than 10%.
By 10%.
Correct, that's what it says. Yeah,
Better than a lot.
so that, that sort of limits the size also. You still get 30%, but you can't increase it by more than 10%.
Right.
The actual structure.
A couple of questions. Is this something you, this built from a model from another community, or is this just from scratch on the first one?
It is built from a model from other communities. I mean, there's a lot of communities around that actually have these ordinances in place.
It's really hard to know what you might run into, what problems might come up.
Yeah.
But someone's already using it and using it.
Yeah.
and it's Worked out. I guess my second question is. Yeah, maybe it's in here, but I just haven't found it. If there's issues with zoning, like, is this just for R1?
Yes. Yeah.
R2 and R3.
Create new housing. Scale.
That's something we'll need that, you guys will need to flesh out where you want it, if you want it in all residential or just.
It seems like what we're doing is we're taking an R1 structure and turning it into an R2 lot.
The way it sounds like that.
And
It's not a pure R2 though,
it's a secondary unit, like you're putting a renter in a unit or in a lot that was previously owner occupied.
With limitations as to size, number of occupants and things like that.
If you've got a teenager that needs a little more space, so you go ahead and you finish off the second floor of your garage to sort of give that person their own area. That would be another situation where you might want to do something like this.
Yeah, I guess I just was worried about we just have a lot of R2 development that has occurred in our town, and so if there's any, if this is not applicable to that, or if it does apply if the structure on the property is a single family home, I think it would make sense that it applies to single family homes. I don't think it would make sense to put a shed in the backyard of a duplex, and now you got an R3 on an R2, or you put somebody in your storage garage on an R3, that doesn't make sense. Bad uses.
Yeah, we're looking for input. Yeah, it
But a
could be
mother-in-law
right.
could live in the basement of an R2.
You need to
So then would it be,
need this for that, like, I'm just let you know that now live in the basement, you need to get a permit and make it a separate dwelling.
I wouldn't see any reason to have to do that. no.
Yeah.
But if you want something that you can rent out, maybe when the mother-in-law passes, then that's a different.
I guess if you're in a duplex, hypothetically, it has a basement access to be separately rentable
Right.
space. Actually, it's like a good use of the, but I guess my input is that it seems to me like this makes sense for an R1 area where there's other homes and there's backyards of the. Somebody needs to point that out.
this is basically just a preliminary discussion of
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
what options we would like. I just ran did a quick Google search and there are just all kinds of I don't know if they repeat each other, but there are quite a few ordinances that address the whole concept. Just
It seems
online. Oh,
seems like requiring a permit for someone to apply for this gives the city the opportunity to review.
Correct.
No, we're not asking for anything to be passed, just comments at this point. When we're done hashing this out, or if we decide not to do it, then we'll move on to the next section. At your pace.
Okay, well, take our comments at this point, and we'll see this again. The next item is to comment on the parking minimum requirement flexibility, which suggests that we can recommend the reduction in the minimum required amount of parking to the city council if we think that's desirable with the development that takes place. And the city council also can waive the minimum parking requirements up to 25% of those requirements. So this is something the developer could ask for if they wish. And some developers certainly might. Not blame, but some. So comments, thoughts about this?
Did this come up or what instigated this to be?
Well, one thing that you find in more modern planning practice is that lots of cities seem to think that the requirements that were put in place with zoning ordinance in the 1920s, 1930s required a lot of parking, much more so than cities want today. I don't say that's the case with West Branch, but it certainly is in many of the areas. I think that was what led to this idea that we ought to be able to be flexible in the amount of parking that is required, rather than going by the ordinance that was established many years ago, and has those kinds of requirements for different types of buildings.
You know, even like in the downtown area where you're trying to promote more foot traffic.
Foot traffic, sure. Okay.
Not so much non-pervious surface, you know, big parking lots, you know.
I think it's great to have options that do it. I also, as I was reading this, I thought it might be nice to have an option to, if you waive some parking from a site plan, maybe, you know, like we have this with park space where sometimes the developer can give the city, you know, some of that money to put towards park space. Maybe we could use, if they want to waive some stalls, we can give an allowance for parking projects elsewhere in the city and have parking added where it's needed instead of where it's not. Seems like we have a shortage of parking in some areas where we have a lot of business, but then a surplus of parking every time we need it.
Maybe we can amend then 1A to say we have the right to recommend up to a 25% reduction rather than a 25% reduction.
That's good language. Thanks, man.
I've been wondering a little bit whether 25% is sufficient if you could get abutting property owners that happen to have quite different demands for parking to band together. In other words, it's certainly the case that some types of activity don't require parking certain times. Others do desire more parking than they can have. And some sort of coordination in this would seem to be desirable. I don't know if you can put that in the ordinance as much as you can talk with developers about that as a possibility.
You know, you might be able to put something in the street parking standards where off-premise parking by special exception. You know, so, you know, like if you had a church who meets on Sundays and certain times and only certain times, and then the parking lot sit vacant all
Right.
week long. You know, if you could go ahead and maybe have something in the code that would say, you know, that you could go ahead and get a special exception or variance to use that parking for your business during the week, but it isn't being used for the church or some other, business, something like that, for off-premise parking.
The most recent, sorry, the most recent example of a property that might have been with that, we might use this parking exemption on the like the lot at the bottom of the meadows. They have a
More
Small
parking than they would need.
small commercial building and they have a lot of parking.
I would say also, even though it's in a planned unit development and with advantages, development where there's potential for a restaurant to go in. I think there was 200+ parking spots, and based on the number of tables, there's no way they would need anywhere close. And so when you talk about extra costs on housing or construction or rents on businesses, or you're talking all the drainage issues we have, I think just a good case by case, again, you don't have to approve anything. It just gives you the authority to hypothetically.
Well, Parkside Hills, you already have that. authority.
Correct. But if you were to go into another situation like that,
Right.
and it's not in a planned unit development.
Okay, well, think about this a bit more. There might be some changes to this little ordinance that we have. And there's no more discussion on it. I think that takes care of our agenda with the exception of the last part, yes. Well, as I said, we didn't really have the. Okay,
We can talk offline, but they're not officially typed up. I'm trying to use-
That's what I thought. They were
Oh,
handwritten at this point.
Not gonna say anything publicly, so
Okay.
just go from there.
And we'll have those, I'm sure, next time. Item 6 is city staff report. Any reports?
I can start. I think a few things you guys need to kind of be aware of. In general, you'll see additional pushes on the EMS side of things. I know this isn't planning and zoning, but each month we get a new record of number of calls we're going to, yet volunteerism in our fire department and first responders is down. We are now officially paying people to be on call, and there are still times when we decline a 911 call, which means it goes to another agency, which then can decline it until somebody answers it. So just kind of remember sometimes there are bigger issues at stake, even in our small little town. And item 2, I guess I would make sure you remind people if they have questions about fences, building permits, retaining walls, that they ask the city, not their friends, not their neighbors, not the realtors. There's already a couple people on having to have them move something after it's been constructed. It's not a fun process. So always have somebody call. It is much easier than wait an extra 5 days to get the correct answer. And 1 year later, they have to put in an extra $5,000 on something.
Seems like that would be a good topic to get a column in the paper about.
Probably only happened, I've only had that experience once in talking when somebody's referred them to Adam, somebody wondering about this, that, or the other thing.
I think it's a common issue you're finding in the recent.
And each individual lot is different, so just because your neighbor could do something doesn't mean you can't. There are
Also, you have a
easements
lot of those
and
stormwater
stuff.
easements in that.
People put fences in them, and they didn't know.
Some didn't even call and submit permits. We had a staff error here and there, and that's for us to address, and if we've got to pay for it because it's our fault, then we will.
But for the most part, people are putting things in and not submitting permits. So now, generally, when we get an 811 call, it goes to Matt Goodell, but he doesn't have access to all the permits. So now we've had all these issues. Now I have to read the 811 call, verify we have a building permit, and then Matt views it. So it just, that's to protect them, but it's just one more thing that we're having to slow things down, and it would just be helpful if people come to us first versus me reading 81 calls a week to figure out, because that's how much we get here in West Branch.
There should be something in the title opinion that directs the owner when they purchase the property to check with, you know, the city before they undertake an activity. But I suppose most people don't really read those closely.
Okay, Adam, Terry?
Sympathetic.
Don't have a lot, building permits are still coming in. I mean, there's a lot of work in town right now.
How many RT versus R1?
50-50. Not a lot of single families are going up.
Yeah.
But same with the zero lot lines yet. And they're starting to go out behind BP station also.
Is there more construction going on out there? I've noticed a few buildings that have been
There's
almost completed, but there seems to be an awful lot of, well, there seems to be a lot of, well, not much
Available
activity,
land.
not much activity out there.
Yeah, there's four zero lot lines going up there right now. Single
Are those the ones in the back?
story. No, and then there's the townhouses, 2 buildings right now that are going up. 2-unit and 4-unit.
I mean, I've driven out there. It seems like they're toward the back of the,
Yeah,
but is there anything close? Okay.
no, just.
Not a whole lot of activity.
No, I got Second and, yeah. Nothing, yeah. Just 4 zeros.
Okay. Roger, anything to share with us?
CDG by the mid-October might run the challenge grants for the cafe, possibly. $100,000 grant they've applied for the serving cafe to remodel the old mobile station. We'd really like them to get that. I have nothing else.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming and sharing tonight. And I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting. Second? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay.